Welcome to this deep dive. Today, we're tackling a really interesting stack of sources.
Yeah, we've got to look at the cosmic forecast for June 8th, 2025, and also this futuristic story that seems to echo some of those themes in a fascinating way.
Our mission here is basically to cut through the noise, pull out the most important nuggets of knowledge, insights from these two quite different perspectives.
And help you see how these ideas might connect and maybe find some practical takeaways for yourself.
All right, let's dive straight in. So the astrology for June 8th, 2025, it paints a picture right away, doesn't it? Describes the energy as just bubbling over with possibility.
Definitely. It sounds like a pretty potent day. The source says the cosmos is turning up the emotional volume.
Emotional volume. Okay. And it encourages thinking in bigger and broader terms.
Exactly. Less focus on the mundane, maybe, and thoughts, conversations. They take on a more emotional, intuitive tone.
So intuition mixing with communication. That's interesting.
And what's really key here is how that links to expressing ideas. Our ability to communicate with enthusiasm and optimism is enhanced,
Ah, okay. So you're not just feeling more. You can actually share those bigger ideas with, like real energy, a positive spin.
which makes it ideal for brainstorming, learning, and sharing knowledge, according to the source.
Sounds like a green light for just letting ideas flow.
It does, but, like with any strong energy, there's a potential shadow side mentioned too.
Right, I saw that. The source warns some might twist this and use words to manipulate or intimidate.
Yeah, and it links that to unconscious fear and a need to control. So the same energy can go both ways, really. Depends on the underlying motivation.
Good point. And there's also that caution against being too lofty or unrealistic. Need to keep grounded somehow.
Definitely. Even with all that possibility floating around.
Okay, now here's where it gets really specific, because the source highlights Mercury conjunct Jupiter as a key driver.
Yes. The communication planet, Mercury, meeting Jupiter, the planet of expansion and big ideas. That makes sense.
The source calls it high-speed thought, wild curiosity. You can really picture that combination, can't you?
Absolutely. Mercury's speed amplified by Jupiter's, well, bigness, and it brings electric positivity.
Electric positivity, I like that. It encourages us to speak our minds and see how far they can take us. Really pushing boundaries with our thoughts.
And it's seen as highly favored for certain things like dynamic duos, open communication, brilliant ideas, and new concepts.
So that urge, that need to communicate our thoughts and opinions is heightened.
Which is why the suggested activities are things like write, speak, teach, brainstorm, get it out there.
But it's not just about talking, is it? There's that crucial bit about balance.
Right. Be sure to also listen consciously to others. It's got to be a two-way exchange.
Otherwise,
Well, the potential downsides mentioned are nervous energy and potential information overload. You can imagine with thoughts firing that fast.
yeah, it could get overwhelming if you're not listening or grounded. Okay, so moving on to outcomes. This is where the astrology introduces the idea that good fortune materializes in our everyday life.
But not in a huge, obvious way. It specifies how. Via simple assists and commonplace favors.
Little things. Almost unnoticeable moments of luck.
Pretty much. And a link to this are chance encounters that, get this, could yield life-changing results.
Wow, from something small.
Yes, but here's the catch, and it's a big one. These encounters, these assists, are often unrecognized in the moment.
You only see their importance later.
Only properly understood in hindsight, is how it's put. So you could walk right past something huge and not even clock it at the time.
That requires some perspective then. And it also suggests these moments might be a kind of reward.
Yeah, for the faith we had that everything would turn out for the best in the end, it connects that optimism, that positive expectation, to actually receiving these sort of quiet blessings.
A link between mindset and reality, even on that subtle level.
They're a really nice thought, isn't it?
Okay, let's transition now. Let's bring in the second source. This story of the day called The Signal Between Worlds.
Right. This one feels like it just picks up these threads and runs with them. It's set in this futuristic city, Nova-Vyra.
Sounds intense. Neon-strung spires, data streams, and this central thing called the veil. A living network of consciousness.
Yeah, imagine a place where thoughts travel instantly. The source says, a single stray notion could travel the globe in seconds, morph, and return as a brilliant new concept. Ideas literally collaborating.
Wild. Okay, so into this setting, we get two characters who meet. Jalen Orris.
He's a thought runner, described as having a sharp mind, unyielding curiosity, and relentless optimism. Sound familiar?
Yeah, that optimism and curiosity ring a bell from the astrology.
Hmm.
And the other character?
Miri Solis. She's a word weaver, speaking truth so precise it could alter probabilities, but the key thing the story highlights about her, she had learned to listen.
Curiosity and optimism meet precision and listening. Interesting pairing. A dynamic duo, perhaps.
Could be. And they're meeting. Pure chance. A misplaced data glass. A polite offer to help.
Small, unremarkable moments, just like those everyday assists the astrologer mentioned.
Exactly. And there's this lovely detail. The veil shimmered faintly around them, and neither noticed. Like the universe noticing even if they didn't.
So they connect. Drawn together, the story says, by that pulse of electric positivity filling the city.
There's that phrase again. Electric positivity.
And they spend the day basically living out that Mercury-Jupiter vibe, right? Exchanging thoughts faster than light could travel.
It's a perfect description. They brainstormed. Jalen on energy, Miri on language. They argued. They taught one another without knowing it.
That dynamic exchange, the teaching, the learning, it maps so well onto the forecast.
It really does. Then, the crisis hits.
Right. A cascade of stray data surges through the veil. A rogue signal, ancient, coded, threatens an overload.
And the signal's message is pretty stark. Speak truly or perish.
Intense. And most people couldn't handle it.
No, most minds recoiled. Too raw, too forceful. But Jalen and Miri,
Because they were already in that dynamic, optimistic exchange.
exactly, buoyed by the dynamism and unburdened by fear, they actually caught the signal. Their connection prepared them.
And they acted together. Decoded its meaning, spoke its words, and shifted the balance of the veil.
And boom, the overload dissipated, replaced by a harmonious frequency. Crisis averted.
And here's that theme again. Nobody realized what they'd done.
Nope, no one recognized their act for what it was. The crisis had passed like a shadow at dusk, the significance totally missed in the moment.
Just like the astrology predicted with those chance encounters and assists.
Precisely. And the positive outcomes. Also subtle. Also delayed. In the quiet days that followed, fortunes turned in subtle ways across the city.
And the examples given, an ailing child recovered, a failing business found its patron, a war ended before it began.
Those sound exactly like the simple assists and commonplace favors leading to potentially life-changing results that the astrology talked about. Good fortune blooming quietly.
It really reinforces that you might not see the ripples immediately. The story even says it took years for the Veil's archivists to trace the pattern back to their meeting.
Hindsight again, it's always clearer looking back.
And what happened to Jalen and Miri?
They just kept going. Vanished into the deeper reaches of the thought grid, chasing new ideas, and the eternal shimmer of possibility. Their dynamic exploration became their path.
Wow. And the story's takeaway is pretty direct, isn't it?
Very. They learned the true power of connection, that the words we speak and the moments we share are the seeds from which entire futures grow.
Seeds for the future. And then that final line. And sometimes the universe listens.
Chills. It's quite something how closely the story mirrors the forecast. That dynamic duo energy.
The electric positivity, the high-speed communication.
The chance encounter from something tiny leading to these huge, but initially unseen positive effects.
Mirroring that subtle, everyday good fortune only recognized later. And the reward for optimism, for faith.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? About your own conversations, your own connections, those little everyday interactions you probably dismiss.
Especially on days where the energy might be similar. What potential power is hiding in plain sight?
How might paying more attention to those simple assists, those commonplace favors, actually show you streams of good fortune you're currently missing?
So wrapping this up, we've seen how the energy for June 8, 2025 seems to be about possibility, bold communication.
Boosted by that Mercury-Jupiter connection, encouraging dynamic exchanges and maybe significant chance meetings.
And the story, the signal between worlds, gave us this vivid picture of how that could play out, a seemingly small interaction rooted in curiosity and optimism.
Both sources really point to this powerful idea. Our words, our shared moments, they're like seeds.
Seeds for the future. Which brings us back to that final thought from the story.
And sometimes the universe listens. So maybe the question for you is, what might it mean to speak and to listen, knowing that even your most ordinary interactions could be part of a bigger pattern, shaping what's yet to come?